So we're getting into the holiday season, and I saw this thread last night on Twitter, and I had to share it with you. I had to make a video about it to do maybe not really a dramatic reading, but maybe we're going to have story time. We're going to gather around for story time because, you know, we live in a time right now that is very divisive, where people are at each other's throats, where people are ready to pounce on each other at a moment's notice. And I think that it's important to remember that it hasn't always been like this. And there have been times when we have seen the very best of the human spirit come out. And I saw this last night from the Twitter account for the Canadian Forces in the United States at CAF in US. I will link this entire thread in the description below if you want to go look at some of the pictures or some of the letters, because there's a lot of historical information in here that you might want to go look at and spend some time with. But this is a beautiful story, and I just felt the need to share it with all of you. All right, let's have our story time. This tree from Nova Scotia is now in Boston Common. The Nova Scotians send one every year. Why? It's December 1917. Canada has been at war for more than 3 years, but children in Halifax are excited because it's almost Christmas. On December 6th, 2 ships collide in Halifax Harbor. Sparks, fire, black smoke. People watch from windows. Children walking to school run to the shoreline. One ship is carrying relief supplies for war-torn Belgium. The other is laden with 2.9 kilotons of explosives. He could have run, he could have saved himself, but he stayed to warn incoming trains. Passengers survived. Vince Coleman did not. The explosion and subsequent tsunami leveled everything within 1.5 square miles. The blast shattered windows 60 miles away. Fishermen off the coast of Massachusetts said they heard the boom. The ship's anchor landed 2.3 miles away. 1,600 people died instantly, another 400 within days. Children never made it to school, never returned home. Shrapnel wounded thousands, blinding those who stood in windows watching the blaze. When a blizzard hit the next day, 25,000 were without shelter. Canadian military members rushed to the scene. British sailors are among the first rescue teams sent ashore. USS Tacoma was 52 miles away when the crew felt the blast. Captain Powers Symington altered course to head towards the explosion. They went towards the explosion. Doctors and nurses poured in from neighboring provinces, doctors and nurses rushing towards danger. Familiar then, familiar now. Still, Halifax needed more help. When word reached Boston, details were scant. Governor Samuel McCall offered assistance immediately via telegraph, but dispatched a train before receiving a response. When an official in Halifax first read this letter from the governor, he broke down in tears. Now let's read this letter. It's a little bit tough to read, but I'm going to give it my best shot. My dear Mr. Mayor, I am sending Honorable A.C. Radeski of the Massachusetts Public Safety Committee immediately to your city with a corps of our best state surgeons and nurses in the belief that they may be of service to you in this hour of need. I need hardly hear from you that we have the strong... I need hardly say to you, that's what it is. I need hardly say to you that we have the strongest affection for the people of your city and that we are anxious to do everything possible for their assistance at this time. Kindly express to the people of your city that very deep sympathy of the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and assure them that we are ready to answer to any call that they may need to make upon us. Immediately upon hearing of the terrible blow dealt to Halifax, I sent the following telegram to you. Understand your city in danger from explosion and conflagration. Reports only fragmentary. Massachusetts stands ready to go to the limit in rendering every assistance you may be in need of. Wire me immediately. Upon being informed that the wires were out of commission, though the good offices of the federal government of Washington, this further telegram was sent to you by wireless. Since sending my telegram this morning offering unlimited assistance, an important meeting of the citizens has been held and Massachusetts stands ready to offer aid in any way you can avail yourself of. We are prepared to send forward immediately a special train with surgeons, nurses, and other medical assistants, but await advices from you. Won't you please call Mr. Radeski for every help that you need? The Commonwealth of Massachusetts will stand back of Mr. Radeski in every way. Sincerely, Samuel McCall, the governor. And then he says, P.S. Realizing the time is of the utmost importance, we have not waited for your answer, but have dispatched the train. A relief committee in Boston raised the equivalent of $1.9 million within the hour. The people of Massachusetts sent the equivalent of $15 million in total to support relief efforts. Now, just imagine that for a second. Just imagine back in 1917, raising the equivalent of $1.9 million within an hour. Within an hour. When you don't have the internet and technology to help you. That is astounding. And they have this appeal, an appeal for funds for Halifax. It is evident from all reports on hand that thousands are in great distress as a result of the great catastrophe which has spread death and devastation in Halifax. Generous contributions will be needed to carry on the work of relieving immediate distress by providing clothes, food, medicine, and materials for temporary housing of the homeless and suffering. Later will come the great work of rehabilitation, to which we are all committed as your near neighbors of the stricken city. Cash will be required to do all of this, and Massachusetts may be called upon for $1 million. Everyone is asked to subscribe generously and as quickly as possible. Less than 12 hours after the explosion, a train left Boston with doctors, nurses, and supplies. The train was the first of many shipments of medical personnel and supplies that arrived from New England. Neighbors concerned for their neighbors. On the train to Halifax, Abraham Radeski heard rumors about the situation, but was still shocked upon arrival. An awful sight presented itself. Buildings shattered on all sides, chaos apparent, no order existed. In the aftermath, Elizabeth Fraser found her Aunt Sophie. I saw my aunt, who was expecting a baby, dragging her little 6-year-old boy by the hand. Her eyes were blown out of her head, and she was telling him to hurry. He was dead, but she did not know it. Joseph Ernest Brass was recovering in Halifax after being wounded in war. He said the city looked worse than I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. After 3 sleepless nights of caring for victims, he was received by medics in Boston. It brought tears to all our eyes that they can have everything I've got. We have come here to help you. Anything that we have is yours. Anything that we can do will be done. The Americans helped organize the relief effort. They built temporary housing. They ordered more supplies. They treated patients. Anything that we have is yours. In less than 24 hours, members of the Maine National Guard transformed a badly damaged building into a hospital with 200 beds. They treated patients through the night. They delivered a baby, Gilbert Elliott Boyd, named after Maine's Surgeon General, Major Gilbert Elliott. 482 children under 14 were killed, 242 under 5. 30% of the casualties were children. Many survivors lost their sight, their siblings, and their parents. The trauma, visions of horrific scenes lingered throughout their lives. Americans stayed behind for months, years in some cases. The Nova Scotians never forgot the unconditional support. We never forgot. How could we ever forget? The tree in Boston Common is from Nova Scotia. The Nova Scotians send one every year to say we remember, to say we'll never forget, to say thank you, neighbors. It can be really, really easy in this time to think that, you know, so many people have you're either with us or against us outlook. But when human beings are presented with occasions to rise to, I fundamentally believe that they do. Because at the end of the day, listen, what I believe is like, I'm you, you're me. I should be treating you in the same way that I would treat myself. If you're in trouble, I should want to help you, because in helping you, I'm helping myself. I should want you to be as successful as you can possibly be. Even if you're not my favorite person in the world, I still want you to be successful, because if I want success for you, I want success for myself. And I think it can be really, really easy to forget all of this in this extraordinarily divisive climate that we're existing in today. But remember, it doesn't need to be, it really doesn't need to be this way. It doesn't need to be this way. And I think that reminders like this of these great acts of humanity that are just not really discussed and not really known more broadly, these are the things that we need to remember. I mean, and I think that a lot of people focus in on all of the bad parts of history, all the horrible parts, all the mistakes people have made, but everything at the end of the day is just experience. And if the expectation is that human beings are going to behave perfectly all the time and have always behaved and always should have behaved perfectly throughout history, that's not something that we're ever going to be able to live up to. But what we can do is try to be the best versions of ourselves every single day. And I think stories like this remind us of that. So that's all I've got. I really just wanted to share this story, and I hope you appreciated it. And yeah, I'll see you soon.